Imagine waking up in a medieval world, no electricity, no gas, no running water. Just you, the cold breath of dawn, and the quiet hum of survival. Every move you make, every breath you take, depends on how well you understand the ancient rhythm of life that once guided millions before us. The people of the Middle Ages weren't just surviving. They were mastering nature in ways we've nearly forgotten. When fire meant warmth, food, and safety, it wasn't made with a click, it was earned. A spark from flint and steel, struck into a small nest of dry grass, could decide between life and death. In a single breath, they turned smoke into comfort. Today, we rely on lighters, stoves, and electricity. But they had only skill, patience, and a deep understanding of the elements. And that's where true survival begins, by knowing how to create something from nothing. But fire alone wasn't enough. They needed tools that didn't just work, they needed to last. A wooden sling was one of the simplest yet deadliest medieval weapons. It could send a stone flying faster than the eye could follow, powerful enough to take down birds or rabbits from a distance. Hunters learned to carve their slings from strong fibers, twisting them by hand and perfecting the motion through endless practice. It wasn't luck that fed them, it was precision. And when traps replaced weapons, they became silent hunters. Simple trigger snares, built from rope, sticks, and patience, could mean the difference between hunger and a full belly. The beauty of it all was how little they needed. The forest provided everything, and the rest was ingenuity. When night fell, survival took a different form: warmth and rest. Building a shelter wasn't about comfort, it was about endurance. A pile of straw and animal fur could become a bed. A clay wall and a thatched roof became protection. And if you didn't have walls, you built warmth instead. Imagine sitting close to a small clay stove, the kind that stores heat even after the fire dies. The trick wasn't burning endlessly, was keeping the warmth trapped using stone, mud, and timing. They didn't waste because every resource had a purpose. A damp cloth could seal a leak. Straw could stop a draft. And when the cold grew cruel, they slept near animals, using shared heat to survive the frost. These weren't primitive solutions, they were genius. Food preservation was another art lost to time. Without refrigerators, they used salt, clay, and air to keep their meals alive. Meat was packed in salt until it hardened, lasting for weeks. Grains were turned into hardtack rock-solid biscuits that could survive years of travel. And for sweetness, they made panfort, a dense medieval energy bar filled with honey and nuts, perfect for long winters or long journeys. Everything they made had purpose. Nothing spoiled, nothing wasted. Even water, their most precious resource, was treated with respect. They boiled it, filtered it through cloth or sand, and stored it in clay pots buried in the ground to keep it cool. It wasn't technology, it was pure adaptation. What's fascinating is how much of this knowledge still applies today. The idea that survival depends not on strength but on cleverness is something we've forgotten. We think of medieval life as harsh and primitive, but when you look closely, it's filled with quiet brilliance. Their world was a living classroom where every mistake could be fatal and every success was earned. And maybe that's what draws us back to their world, the idea that simplicity and survival can coexist beautifully. In a world without central heating or thermal blankets, people had to think far beyond the obvious to survive winter. One of the strangest yet most brilliant ideas came from compost. Yes, the same decaying pile of waste we toss aside today once served as a powerful source of heat. As organic matter breaks down, it releases warmth, steady and lasting. Medieval farmers learned to stack compost near animal shelters or beneath wooden floors, letting that natural heat rise through the ground. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. The warmth was gentle, constant, and free. Even the smell was managed by layering straw and soil to keep the air breathable. They turned decay into comfort, proof that survival wasn't always about fighting nature, but learning to work alongside it. the same ingenuity appeared in their kitchens, especially when food ran scarce. During long sieges, when cities were cut off from the outside world, survival rations became both science and art. Soldiers mixed flour, water, salt, and a bit of fat to create hard, dense bread that could last for months. Some even added beer or vinegar to extend shelf life. It didn't taste good, but it kept them alive. Dried peas, salted fish, and smoked meat filled their stores, while honey and vinegar acted as natural preservatives. They understood nutrition long before the word existed, balancing survival with stamina. For the medieval mind, food wasn't about flavor, it was about endurance, and every bite was a calculated decision between hunger and hope. But even outside battle, life tested them constantly. Medieval people faced harsh weather, disease, and famine. They adapted faster than we imagine. When crops failed, they turned to nature's hidden pantry, roots, bark, and wild herbs that most of us wouldn't recognize today. They ground acorns into flour, boiled nettles for soup, and even fermented cabbage into sauerkraut to stretch the seasons. The line between survival and starvation was razor thin, but their knowledge turned it into an art form. Every plant, every animal, every shift in wind carried meaning. They didn't just live in nature, they read it, spoke it, and relied on it like an old friend. Shelter, too, evolved from necessity. In poor villages, people built walls from wattle and daba, simple weave of sticks plastered with mud and straw that insulated better than you'd expect. They hung tapestries, not for beauty, but for warmth, trapping air inside stone rooms. Even candles were used, strategically placed near reflective metal plates to bounce light and heat. In their quiet way, medieval homes became ecosystems, perfectly balanced between human need and natural imitation. Nothing was wasted because nothing could be. And through it all, their greatest survival tool wasn't fire, water, or food, it was community. In the medieval world, isolation was death. People relied on one another, shared what they had, and passed down knowledge and stories whispered beside the hearth. They built societies not from wealth, but from wisdom and trust. Today, we might call it resilience. Back then, it was simply life. It's easy to romanticize the past, to see castles and armor, and forget the quiet genius that kept ordinary people alive through centuries of chaos. But when you peel away the myths, you find something deeper, a raw understanding of the world, shaped by patience and necessity. Maybe the real lesson from their survival isn't about living without technology, but about remembering how to live with awareness, gratitude, and respect for the earth itself. So, what do you think? Could you last a single week using only medieval survival methods? Or would the quiet, relentless simplicity of that world break you or teach you something we've long forgotten? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this journey through the forgotten wisdom of our ancestors fascinated you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals. New stories from the past await each one, a reminder that sometimes the old ways weren't just primitive. They were perfect.